Well, our next look, we'll continue on the security matters, but now we're taking on another matter, and it has to do with the Lagos doctors versus the government here in the state. They have an issue concerning unpaid salaries. Joining us to look at that is Dr. Biyi Kufo. He's the chairman, Medical Guild here in Lagos State. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for joining us. Very quickly, bring us up to speed. What exactly is happening between the doctors and the government of Lagos?
Yes, well, thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here. We have our complaints basically are that the government has this apartheid policy that is implementing.
Apartheid?
That it is implementing in Lagos. Now, as you're aware, the national body of the Nigerian Medical Association embarked on a strike, a national strike, from the 1st of July, and that strike ended on the 24th of August, and we resumed on the 25th of August. And as with all strikes, the memoranda signed at the end of the strike said that there will be no victimization of any doctors for participation in the strike. The Lagos State government was aware at each point of what was happening, and we apprised them of what was happening. There is no doubt of that. Now, at the end of the strike, the Lagos State government, and the Lagos State government alone throughout the nation, went ahead to victimize its doctors, initially by withholding salaries for August. And what we did when that happened was that we sat down and we said, look, for this time, the government has set about in the public, giving us quite a reputation about not being satisfied, always wanting to go on strike, never talking, never going into dialogue. And we said, no, this time that is what we were going to do. And we did that. We went into dialogue and appeals, advocacy. We had meetings with the commissioner. We wrote a letter to him. The Nigerian Medical Association Lagos State branch wrote letters to the governor, one directly, another one through the honorable commissioner. The national body of the Nigerian Medical Association wrote to the governor, and it was all about, look, there was no need for this, stating that this was a national strike, it was a national call, there was really no choice for the doctors, they had to obey and things like that. There was really no response. On the 18th of September, we took a delegation of medical elders led by Professor Michael Bankole of Lasut. He's one of the oldest people in service in this state. And at that meeting, there were a number of elders there. I was there, but I was just there as an observer. And it was the same approach. Let us resolve this matter peacefully. It was a national strike and all. And, well, at that meeting, the commissioner said, okay, we'll look into it. The response to...
So the Lagos State government agreed to meet with you on the many occasions you decided to have dialogue with them?
Yes.
And they also acknowledged your letters that were written to you, that were written to them, rather?
Well, we'll get to... They didn't acknowledge initially. We'll get to that acknowledgement later. Okay. Now, the response to that period of advocacy was that the Lagos State government withheld salaries for a second month, for September, in which we worked. But we continued that period of advocacy. We continued to, and we were using back channels. I mean, I can say it here, we were talking to the politicians, and we kept saying, look, let us not do this. Let us not go into a fight over this. The national, and on the 30th of September, there was a meeting at the instance of the Lagos State House of Assembly, chaired by the chairman of the House Committee on Health, Honorable Odewu Avose. That meeting was well attended. Commissioners for Health Establishment, Chairman HSC, Lasut, CMD, NMA Lagos State, a representative of the national, this was a full meeting. And the understanding of that meeting, which the chairman said was that, look, we have investigated, I'll get to that. I talked about apartheid. I said that, now this policy, they said that what they are implementing is a no work, no pay policy. And I have said that it is an apartheid policy. This policy, this is the history, was originally a military decree, which the military never applied. Now it's been applied in civilian dispensation,
But you're aware of an existent, decree that says no work, no pay in the state.
We have had it before, and I will explain.
And it's not been repealed.
I'm not aware. It's a policy, so they call. I'm not aware that it's been repealed, but I need to explain this critically. This is important. Now, I said it was a military that the military never applied. Now, this policy was first applied to the medical guild in 2012. You will all recall that there was a serious crisis in 2012 between the medical guild and the government. And that is the first time this policy was used. The circular for this policy, you know, at the time we had issues with the implementation of the current salary scale, CONMES. We were having a peaceful meeting in Lagos. The government invaded the premises with policemen and guns, and we went on strike. And the government responded to that by saying it had sacked 788 doctors. That was unprecedented. Now, after a lot of pressure, that decision was reversed. But the government wrote a circular, according to them, in July 2012, after the strike, stating that there was a no work, no pay policy, right? And then wrote a reminder in November, and applied that circular retroactively to an action that we are taking 3 days in April and in May 2012, and we have kept talking about that, you know, since that time. Now, that no work, no pay policy, which is why I call it apartheid, had never been applied before and has not been applied since. Since 2012, at least 6 groups have embarked on strike. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, 6 months in 2013. The Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, 4 months in 2013. The magistrates, I believe 2 months in 2013. The joint health sector unions, the judiciary workers, the teachers, all of them have embarked on strike, and all have been paid in full.
The teachers where? Sorry?
The teachers, what time, what year?
I don't know. The teachers, I don't recall, but I'm aware that they went on strike in this state. Some of these strikes were national strikes, some were local. As recently as June, ASU embarked on a local strike, ASU in LASU, and they were paid.
When did this strike? It took place in August. This strike took place in August.
The national strike.
The national strike. I said at the beginning that it was from July, the 1st of July, and it was called off on the 24th of August, yes.
And that was when we were already having the Ebola issue in the state.
That is true, but I will talk about that Ebola issue. But I need to crystallize this, because you see, it's important that I let you know that it is strange that there is this policy that is buried deep within the recesses of the administration at any other time, but when it comes to a medical guild strike, it suddenly assumes some voluptuous incandescence, and it just appears and says, there's a no work, no pay policy.
Because I'm asking the question because I recall questions posed by Lagosians and Nigerians at that point in time that the nation, was in a dire situation, medically speaking, and the doctors were on strike.
I will address
so if they had called off the strike based on that very quickly, don't you think that they would have had some moral justification, at least since there is an existent rule that says no work, no pay, for them to have waived that and say, okay, well, those people sacrificed?
Can I address that? This Ebola thing, because I've heard it in so many places, and I've always tried to put the record straight. I have kept saying that the Lagos State government, and the Lagos State government alone in the entire country, was the only administration to victimize its doctors. Now, when we come to the Ebola virus disease, it's unfortunate that we're in an environment that things that should be managed by professionals are being managed by people who don't really know anything about managing these affairs. At the time of the Ebola virus disease, we were on strike, and the Nigerian Medical Association and all its affiliates were directed to set up Ebola response teams, and that was done. The Medical Guild had its own. And what we did was that, Ebola is not a disease that you manage with a large group of doctors. No, that would be dangerous. We must be grateful to God that Mr. Sawyer, when he came, did not land in a public hospital. And we keep thanking the Lord for that. So what we did, what the enemy directed was that...
You were on strike then, so he wouldn't have been there in the first place. The doctors were on strike.
Yes, but I am saying, but these are facts, and we must acclaim that. But you see, there are issues about this thing that we must be aware of. The NMA did what it should have done.
What was
It
that?
directed that all doctors should volunteer, that doctors should, not all doctors, it cannot be all, but doctors should volunteer and join these response teams, and that was done. The members, the people who were carrying out the response to Ebola were all members of the Nigerian Medical Association, were all directed to do so. For example, and this I must tell you, if you must know, this volunteering was a lot more difficult than it was, because I went to the Ebola Response Team Center. Even getting the address was an issue. I went there. I tried to volunteer. As soon as I let it be known that I was chairman of the Medical Guild, it suddenly became impossible. I was asked to come back tomorrow, come back the next day, and all. But there were doctors there. Ebola, look, we must be frank. People must understand that, you know, when things are supposed to be done by professionals, those professionals must be allowed.
Are you implying that the Lagos State government has a problem with the medical guild?
Yes, there is no doubt about that. Look, that is obvious. That is obvious. Look, I can tell you. Let me tell you. I told you
Why
that.
would they be having problems with the medical guild?
Well, that is left for them to answer. But I can tell you, you must be aware of a number of issues that this administration has had with the medical guild. You know that in 2008, right? There have been so many. We held elections. For the first time, the government came up. This administration came up and said that they didn't like our elections, and they started saying they were contesting the elections, and we were going about and saying there was another group and all. In 2009, if you remember, the winner of those elections, Dr. Ibrahim Olaifa, was sacked. The official offense was that he addressed a press conference. This is the leader of an association in a civilian society. Now, in 2012, you remember that was the peak of it all, when the government said they sacked 788 doctors. And since 2012, the government the administration has been harassing doctors without let or hindrance.